My name is Optimus Prime.
This is Peter Cullen. You probably know him best from the voice you just heard, the voice of Optimus Prime. If you're not a Transformers fan, you've probably heard his voice somewhere else, like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, or if you want a more recent example, Thetis from Invincible. But it's his role as Optimus that has not only given Cullen his legacy, but has defined the character of Optimus to this very day. And this iconic delivery is all thanks to one sentence of advice given to Cullen from his brother. If you haven't heard the story, I suggest you hear it from the man himself.
I'm going to audition. I'm going to be, I'm auditioning as a truck. So I said, but Larry, he's, evidently he's a hero truck. He's a hero. And his face got somber and he said, Peter, if you're going to be a hero, be a real hero. Don't be a Hollywood hero type with all the BS and all the yelling and screaming and trying to be tough. Be strong enough to be gentle.
Strong enough to be gentle. It's a line that brings tears to my eyes just about every time I hear it. Maybe that's because I'm an emotional wreck of a person. But to me, this one sentence perfectly defines the best traits of Optimus. And I believe it is because of this trait that his character rises to be one of the greatest heroes in all of modern pop culture. Now, let's dive into the massive world of Transformers and the mighty spark of Optimus Prime.
Transformers!
Objectively speaking, when comparing the original Transformers show to others in the franchise's long tenure, it isn't the best. The animation has numerous errors, and the writing can be very silly and out of place. Yet, it cannot be denied that this show is where it all started. Now, that isn't to say the show is bad. You just have to go into watching it expecting for it to have more of a campy action hero vibe with a lower budget, rather than the grittier tones and high-budget effects you may expect based on some of the newer adaptations that brought the franchise to larger audiences. But while G1 may be taken less seriously than future versions, it laid the groundwork for this franchise, and it also introduced us to the characters that we know and love today, including Optimus Prime. This original version of Optimus is a little more lighthearted than more recent entries. He's not some hardened war hero stabbing Decepticons through the spark, but rather a quite hopeful and joyful character, doing everything in his power to protect the Earth and its inhabitants. My personal favorite representation of Optimus's character from the original show takes place in Season 2, Episode 8, titled A Prime Problem. In this episode, Megatron schemes to create a clone of Optimus, one that he is able to control remotely from the Decepticon base. He plans to destroy Optimus and take his place with the clone, infiltrating the Autobots and eventually leading them all to their doom as they follow a false leader. The Autobots are left with two leaders and must discern which one is the real Optimus. Immediately, the clone is seen to be not fully convincing. With Megatron being at the wheel, including controlling the clone's speech, he's out of his element at Autobot headquarters, forgetting people's names, not knowing how to use their computer, Teletran 1, and simply acting a bit weird.
Something's very wrong with Optimus Prime.
You're telling me?
The Autobots perform a few tests to try and judge who is the real Optimus, but these tests come up inconclusive, mostly due to Megatron's meddling. So, to make it all more convincing, Megatron adds a step to his plan. He creates a new clone, this time one of Starscream. The real Starscream takes the helm of his own clone and lets it get destroyed by the Optimus clone in a climactic showdown with the Decepticons near the end of the episode. This act begins to fool the Autobots into believing this is the real Optimus. This act of strength against their enemy must mean he's the real deal.
Listen, Autobots, this Prime just destroyed the Decepticons' #2 varmint. He can't be working for Megatron.
Which means he must be the real Optimus Prime. What are your orders, Prime?
But this quickly changes. When Spike, one of the human allies of the Autobots, is in danger, the clone, or should I say Megatron, pays no real care for Spike or the danger he faces. This was the final straw.
But what about Spike? He's unimportant. Follow me. Forget the crystals, Autobots. Now we know which Prime is Prime. The real one would save Spike.
The Autobots saw through the facade, knowing all too well that their leader would be the last one to be frivolous with something as important as a life. Megatron is thwarted yet again, and the Autobots save the day. The episode is pretty cheesy. There's no denying that. The classic hero not being himself trope is far from original, and it's clear to the viewer from the get-go how painfully obvious it is that the clone is not the real Optimus.
Bumblebee, I'm speaking to you. You talking to me? Of course. But I'm not Bumblebee. I'm Ironhide, Prime. I meant Ironhide, naturally.
And yet, despite all this, I still find this moment to be truly moving. The true nature of Optimus and what he stands for is fully revealed in this episode. It is not his physical strength that makes him the great leader he is. It is his natural care for other life, and his mission to protect it. The seeming destruction of Starscream seemed convincing for a time, but this physical strength could not overpower the true nature of Optimus's leadership, his loyalty to those he cares about. And this is a side to Prime that is evident all throughout the original show. We see him playing basketball with Spike. He observes the Northern Lights and takes in their beauty. He accepts when Ironhide says he wants to go into retirement, even though he knows they could use him on the battlefield. The whole show is full of small representations of Optimus's compassion and care for the natural world and the life on it. He's willing to humble himself and put his, what I'll call humanity, first, over his dynamic as leader, even if that is pretty silly sometimes.
As I believe the Earthlings say, lay it on me, man. She was playing Robotopossum.
Amazing. A booby trap that actually catches boobies.
This piece of Optimus's morality and humility has defined his character over time, no matter who is voicing his character. However, one of the best representations of this character comes from another show where Colin reprises his role. That is from the 2010 show Transformers Prime. If you haven't watched Transformers Prime, well, you should. Please, I'm begging you. But in all seriousness, this is my favorite Transformers show, followed up closely by Animated, the continuity just before this one. And if you haven't watched that, well, you should do that as well. But we're talking about Optimus here, and Transformers Prime takes the cake in my opinion when it comes to solidifying his character. This show is really a return to form for the franchise, but one for a slightly older audience. Peter Cullen stepped back into the shoes of Optimus, and Frank Welker returned to voice Megatron, making this the return of the original voice actors after nearly 30 years since Generation 1 debuted. They didn't disappoint.
Your defeat here was foreseen by the ancients. What was it they wrote? The weak shall perish?
Do not believe everything you read.
Optimus is certainly more skilled in combat in this show than his G1 counterpart, his character taking some inspiration from the Bayverse movies in allowing him to be a brutal warrior when he needed to be. However, this Optimus is far from all bite, and he frequently shows his care and gentle nature whenever he can. Now, there's a lot of great moments in this show, so there's no way I can mention them all, and I'm probably forgetting some good moments, but I'll try my best to go over some of the moments within the show that matter to me about showing the nature of Prime's character. Also, I'm sorry if any clips sound weird. The first season's audio seems a little strange everywhere I can find it. In Season 1, Episode 22, Ratchet uses himself as a test subject for a form of synthetic energon, which leads to drastically increasing his speed and strength, but it also increases his aggression as a side effect. While on a mission, Ratchet begins to beat an enemy Decepticon to a pulp, and even wants to torture him for information, while the Decepticon is simply trying to get away. Of course, this is still the Autobots' enemy, but Optimus steps in, stopping Ratchet from going too far and letting the Decepticon leave. He states that they only use lethal force when necessary, as a defense, not to willingly harm those that are not wishing harm upon them. It's a moment that shows restraint. Optimus is seen to be more than willing to fight and kill when he needs to within the show, but he draws the line here when the enemy is defenseless, and adds no benefit to the Autobots. In Season 1, Episode 7, Optimus and RC are trapped in the Arctic, slowly freezing to death while the other Autobots are busy dealing with another threat at the base. At one point in the episode, just before getting rescued, Optimus shares a somber moment with RC, both believing they may end up dying out in the cold. There isn't much said in this scene, at least not in words. However, Optimus's heart shines through with no need of words. As Optimus holds RC's hand, it's clear that even in this moment of uncertainty, his first priority is to comfort those he cares for, to still be strong through his compassion when his physical strength may fail him. His character even shines through to the other humans in the universe, they themselves inspired by the gentle giant that walks before them. Some may be a little too inspired, though.
So, where's Optimus?
On a scouting mission with Bumblebee. Sorry to disappoint.
And I wore heels and everything.
Mom!
But in all honesty, Optimus does inspire his fellow human allies. At the end of the first season, Optimus entrusts Jack with the Omega Key, a device and relic that is immeasurably important. In the season finale, Optimus must use the power of the Matrix, and in doing so, loses the memories of the Primes, including his own memories as Optimus. This reverts him back to his identity before being gifted the power of Prime, Orion Pax.
Where are we, Megatronus?
The Omega Key has the ability to download the wisdom of the Primes and transfer it back to Orion to restore his memories, hence why Optimus left it in the care of Jack. This moment speaks to just how Optimus views his allies, big and small. He does not view them as less than or weak, he views them as equals to himself. He sees their potential and inspires them to rise up to that. Unlike Megatron, he doesn't hold his power over others to oppress and control out of fear, but rather gains his allies' respect through his self-control and restraint of his power, even against his worst enemies. Optimus eventually makes the ultimate sacrifice in the series finale. To save the Allspark, he absorbs its power within his own spark, allowing its power to be saved, but dooming himself along with it. He's able to transfer the Allspark back into Cybertron, bringing life back to the dead planet, his own power and life force being transferred along with it. He is more than willing to do so, and his final words are those of peace and contentment, rather than fear or sorrow over the loss of his own life.
I know that this is not the end. But merely a new beginning. Simply put, another transformation.
Now, I'm not going to go into how that ending is completely ruined and retconned by the sequel show. We're just going to headcanon that one out. Another side note, this show is also technically a sequel to the War for Cybertron games, even though there's massive errors and gaps in continuity. The Aligned Universe is an absolute mess, although it contains some incredible works, like this one. But if we take this show as a standalone, it's a strong entry into the franchise as a whole, and one of the best takes on Optimus Prime to this day. This version may be more stoic than others, and you won't find him playing basketball with his human allies, but his spark is in the right place, and his care and compassion for others will always come before his own. I know I've been talking for a while, but there is still one more iteration of Optimus that I want to talk about, and this one is quickly shaping up to be potentially the best yet. The Skybound comics are quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite iterations of the Transformers universe. Depending on how it continues to evolve, it very well could become my favorite. I believe it already holds my favorite take on Optimus Prime, which is really saying a lot based on the fact that this run hasn't even been going for over a year, on top of the fact that there's 40 years of Transformers content out there. The Skybound series launched just late last year, in October of 2023. After IDW finished their last Transformers run, Image Comics gained the rights, and boy, have they stepped up to the plate. Daniel Warren Johnson's writing is superb. In this new universe, we're introduced to potentially one of the most evil incarnations of the Decepticons to date, showing their brutality and apathy towards the Earth and the inhabitants that walk among it, and really just all life outside of their own. Alongside, we get truly memorable takes for our fellow Autobots, even bringing lesser-known characters to the forefront, such as Cliffjumper. Alongside Johnson's wonderful writing, he also serves as the artist for the first 6 issues, with Jorge Corona taking over the art by issue 7, managing to perfectly keep the art style on point. The art is unbelievably impactful, expressing the raw power of the Cybertronian robots in a way that very little Transformers material does. Metal is twisting, cracking, and scraping, while also achieving a sense of calm when the story demands it. Mike Spicer's coloring tops it all off, with a beautiful color palette that splashes off the page and demands your attention, and gives a nostalgic throwback to the original series. It simply is a wonderful book that I highly recommend to Transformers fans new and old, while also holding a wonderful rendition of the subject of this video. Issue 1 starts us with the classic Transformers formula. The Ark crashes on Earth, containing both Autobots and Decepticons, but Teletran isn't the one to start the repair process on its own. Jetfire happens to find the Ark, and he hasn't been on Cybertron in some time. He lacks knowledge of the full depth of the war, and repairs Starscream first, as they were old friends. Of course, by this time in the timeline, Starscream is full-blooded Decepticon, and he wants to use this opportunity while the Autobots are still out of commission. To Jetfire's horror, he kills Bumblebee in cold blood, ready to finish off the rest of the Autobots before they can even fight back. But the repair process is still in motion, and Optimus is up next. At this time, two teens, Spike and Carly, have snuck into the Ark to explore the crash site. They watch Bumblebee's demise from a distance, when suddenly Optimus joins the fight. His first interaction with the humans is telling. He's thrown into view of the teens while fighting Starscream, and with no knowledge of who or what they are, protects them from Starscream and helps them escape the situation. It may seem like a stereotypical heroic act, but it's one that shows where Optimus's true values lie. They do not lie in saving his own life, but rather giving all the strength he has to save others, even those he does not know, on a strange new world he just woke up to. In the escape from the Ark, we also have a heartbreaking few panels. Optimus finds the body of B and holds him in his arms, mourning the loss of a fellow warrior and friend. His gentleness and love for others is immediately seen as an inspiration to Spike. It shows him that Optimus is someone worth fighting for and worth fighting with. It shows that he is human, even while not being so physically. Just a page later, he runs out into the battlefield to help push Optimus's gun back into his reach, and ultimately turn the tides against the Decepticons. Within the first issue alone, and really within only a handful of pages, the traits that make Optimus who he is are on full display. It isn't just his power or his willingness to fight the Decepticons, it's his compassion for those around him, his loyalty to his friends even after the bitter taste of death. His willingness to feel, to not just shut himself off from his emotions. These are the traits that make a hero. Within the next issues, there are more and more examples of Optimus showing his colors. In issue 2, he admires the beauty of the earth, only to accidentally crush a deer under his feet. We see him kneel down and hold the deer, just as he had held Bumblebee only an issue prior, telling the deer that he's sorry. He has a heartfelt conversation with Spike just after, his size, age, and knowledge meaning nothing special to him. He sits and talks with Spike as any pair of friends would. In issue 4, he gives the last of the healing power he has in the Matrix to a hospital damaged by the Decepticons, claiming there must be no more death. This means he can no longer heal his own body with the Matrix, but it does not matter to him. He would gladly suffer so others don't have to. In the same issue, a young, sick child comes over to a broken and battered Optimus, asking if he could really turn into a truck, and if he could show him. Optimus happily obliges, giving even when he has nothing left to give. But don't let these examples of Prime's gentle nature fool you. He's still a total badass as well. In issue 3, Optimus gets injured in a battle with Skywarp that leaves his right arm a withered skeleton. Knowing his arm is essentially useless, he rips it off and uses it to bludgeon Skywarp to finish the battle. It's an incredible moment that shows this Optimus is no stranger to getting his hands dirty when he needs to. Not to mention, he adopts Megatron's arm shortly after, leading to an instantly classic panel that has already become a key moment in the Transformers fandom. I can't wait to see what more comes out of this run. I could talk more about this series, but I want to leave some details for you to discover yourself if you're interested in checking it out. It's simply an incredible comic run for long-standing and new fans alike, and this version of Optimus really was written to highlight his true nature of strong enough to be gentle. I could continue to go on and on about my love for this character. The way he inspires others, the way he's like a father to those that need one, the way he's willing to give everything for what he believes in. Optimus Prime and the Transformers franchise in general have left a massive impact on my life, one that is still growing to this very day. I still go back and watch my favorite shows. I'm still buying the toys. I'm reading the comics, and all of it just brings me so much joy. There's so much magic in this franchise, and on top of it, it's all characterized by a hero we can all look up to and aspire to be just a little bit more like. I hope I can be a little something like Optimus Prime. I hope we can all learn to be strong enough to be gentle. Thanks to everyone that made it this far in the video. I know that this video didn't really have anything to do with video games, but it was a topic that was important to me. Maybe in the future, I'll make a video about some of the games in the Transformers franchise as more of a content crossover. If you liked this video, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. The support always means a lot. And I want to say a final thank you to Peter Cullen and the Transformers franchise at large for being such a big part of my life, and for inspiring me to be a better person through the characters that exist within it. Thanks for watching, and go boop a snoot.